Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday, and welcome to another Dropback NFL live stream brought to you by the fantastic folks at Brickballing. I am Matt, your host for today's episode, and I'm joined by the fantastic Samuel Lewis. How's it going, Sammy?
Yeah, it's going pretty good. Yeah.
Awesome. Right, well, let's get into it, chaps. We're talking about some NFL news before running through our three sort of big games of the week, and then finishing off with a bit of fantasy tips for you. But yeah, let's go into I'm not sure it's breaking news, but we'll go into the news.
Breaking news, we're doing fantasy this week.
That is breaking news, actually. So first things first. There's not a lot of news. I'll caveat with this. So that's probably why this has made the section. But the Bears are moving stadium, probably.
Ooh.
And they're moving to about half an hour down the road, slightly out of Chicago. What do you think about this one, Slew? Not usually a big fan of teams moving stadiums.
No, but I think this is going to become sort of a trend now in the NFL. We've seen with SoFi and Allegiant that like teams want these new superplexes where fans can go, stay over the weekend, buy a load of stuff. They own all the restaurants nearby. You buy a jersey when you're out there. You make a weekend of it. So I think this is sort of the Bears, and apparently, as they said in the announcement that they're looking to make a purchase, this was Bears founder George Halas's last wishes for the team, which seems like a strange marketing ploy. If it was, he was sort of way ahead of his time. I don't know why he's got such a huge idea about Arlington Park. But congrats for George Halas. He's probably looking down now and thinking they finally fucking did it.
They finally did it. They finally put us in a big suplex super stadium owned by... where everything's owned by the same company within a 20-mile radius.
Absolutely. I don't know how
come true.
Dreams really do. I don't know how I feel about all these NFC North teams. Like, this is the second one. The Vikings also moved to a dome stadium. It's like it's part of your identity. It's like playing outside in the cold in that wind. It's like gives your team
an edge.
Maybe an edge, yeah. But I mean, at the same time, though, if you play outdoors in the North, then you're very unlikely to win a Super Bowl bid. So
yeah, it's frigid cold.
So your edge and how good is this team going to be in the near future versus a big old Super Bowl money bonus with all people coming in from all over the country. So you can see why they made that decision. Not fun though. Like
not a fun decision.
I don't want to see it get to the point where like the Steelers are playing indoors.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be weird.
Or fucking put a roof over Lambeau Field. Like what you're playing at.
Yeah, I'd rather we have just a really chilly Super Bowl one year. That'd be quite funny.
Funny. You can see why kickers and sort of quarterbacks wouldn't be so keen because when it's windy and rainy and stuff like that, and you lose a Super Bowl because the wind blows a kick.
Would be that. Could you imagine the outrage of a fan base if that happened? Would be quite good for comedic effect though. So something to think about maybe for the future NFL if you're listening. So boom, there you go. Bears moving, and then the other sort of big piece of news coming out today is that LeSean McCoy hanging up the cleats. He's going to retire as a Philadelphia Eagles, Slew.
Yeah, this is so breaking news that I didn't even have time to make a little banner thing. So we've actually got to use
It's just the breaking news banner.
Breaking news. Yeah, retiring as an Eagle. Love that. I love that he managed to go win a couple of Super Bowls. I'm not sure how much of a role he played in either of those wins, but he does have 2 rings now after he was ousted for pretty much no good reason in exchange for, I mean, to be fair, how can you pass up the opportunity to trade away a bloody running back for Kiko Alonso, especially when you want to go and give all that running back money to a washed up DeMarco Murray and, who was the other guy? Ryan Matthews it was that we brought in.
Yeah.
Smart moves from Chip Kelly.
Hey, he had Riley Cooper on the outside. That's all he needed, baby. That offense was fire until it probably wasn't.
Until it very much fizzled out.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, I think this is cool. I think we've seen LeSean McCoy bounce around a little bit in recent years, but to me, I always remember LeSean McCoy as, Eagles LeSean McCoy when he was, breaking 5 tackles by the line of scrimmage and doing absurd things, snapping ankles left, right, and center. So I think it's good. I think it's like a bit of a homecoming. The Lost Boys.
It's great. And it means that my Eagles jersey with LeSean McCoy number 25 on the back. Valid again. Absolutely.
Wearable. Absolutely wearable.
Should have worn it for the pod, but should have, could have, would have.
It was too breaking news to be able to make that sort of.
I couldn't have prepped wearing a t-shirt.
Difficult.
Is he a Hall of Famer? 6 Pro Bowls, 2 first team All Pros, 2 Super Bowl rings, and he was such an electric player for that sort of prime when he was at Philadelphia.
Hmm. I mean, I feel like he has got a very good chance of being a Hall of Famer. Um, I mean, I know, as you just said, the rings that he did get, mm,
Are
his
they? It's not
his
like
effect was not.
it's not like an Eli Manning situation where he was
Mm,
Super Bowl MVP and he drove those teams through the playoffs. Well, I mean,
yeah,
alongside great defenses, but I think he was 2 times Super Bowl MVP. I'm not 100% sure about that, but
he definitely nicked one last year with the Bucks, didn't he?
no. I mean, Eli Manning was two
Oh,
times
Eli
Super
Manning.
Bowl. I
Yeah,
think he
yeah.
was 2 times. So it's a different situation where you like right as a whole their career probably maybe not, but the fact that they won 2 Super Bowls,
Mm,
Eli Manning will get in. I'm not sure if that's really that makes any difference with the Sean McCoy, but maybe
yeah.
like 6 years. You look at his stats, you look at 2 All-Pros, and then you add in a couple of rings. Maybe that's enough to push him over the edge.
Yeah, I think it could be, and I mean, like, if you do think back, it does feel like a long time ago now, but like he was so explosive during that period when he was with Philadelphia. Um, I mean, consensusly one of the best running backs and probably top 3 running backs in the league throughout that period. So,
Yeah,
you know, if you look at it from that perspective, I think he's definitely a player that deserves to be remembered, and you know, why not put him in the Hall of Fame? Like I said, he's got the rings now, he's got the Pro Bowls, so yeah, backs up the case somewhat.
yeah,
So, boom, there you have it. LaShawn McCoy hanging him up as an Eagle. Good times.
good times. And we got to use a breaking news banner, so
And
I'm
we
really
did.
happy.
Yeah, fantastic. Boom. Well, more good times follow, and they're starting this Sunday, Slew. Let's jump straight into our games of the week.
Ooh.
Kicking things off with the 3-0 Cardinals paying a visit to the also 3-0 LA Rams on Sunday night, 9 o'clock if you're in the UK. Someone's O's got to go. And why is it going to be the Cardinals, Slew?
I mean, probably because just a worse over a football team. But I mean, the Rams just made it look pretty comfortable against Super Bowl reigning champions Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who we've all been like, they're an elite team right now, and they are. The fact that the Rams made it look easy is a worrying sign for the Cardinals that are not as strong on defense, especially across the defensive line. Like they've got Chandler Jones, but other than that, JJ Watt hasn't quite been his same explosive self. He's good, but he's not like a game wrecker that he once was. So I don't think the Rams are going to have too much trouble running the ball. And they're definitely not going to have too much trouble passing the ball either against this Cardinals back that sort of miraged in week one as a really good secondary and isn't the case. I am curious to see what the Rams do with Jalen Ramsey because, like, most of this season, he's basically just been a slot, what they call their nickel star guy, because what the physicality brings in the run game. But at the same time, it's the first time that they've played a true number one receiver. So will they use him to sort of cover D-Hop? And he did a great job against him in 2020 last year across 2 meetings. Hopkins only got 48 yards on 15 targets. And
I mean,
that was with Ramsey
solid.
basically blanketing him every single time. So I mean, if you've got a weapon like Ramsey, would you not use him against D-Hop? It depends how healthy he is, I suppose. D-Hop, that is.
I would definitely stick Ramsey on D-Hop. I think, you know, the Cardinals' offense has looked good in spells. I think it's still super reliant on Kyler Murray being Kyler Murray and making things happen out of nowhere. So with that in mind, I would say definitely stick your top corner on their best receiver, potentially their best overall player. And like I said, Ramsey's already shown that he can do an effective job of just almost completely taking D-Hop out of the game as much as possible.
Well, there's very few receivers that can get the advantage over Jalen Ramsey, which is why all the Bears fans were loving it all off-season when Darnell Mooney hit a good game against them last year.
Yeah.
That chirping him all off-season, then obviously Darnell Mooney did nothing in that first game.
And was it Hunter Renfrow this off-season when they had a scrimmage with the Raiders?
Yeah,
and the internet went mad because apparently Hunter Renfrow had completely done Ramsey on like back-to-back plays or something.
Yeah, but that almost isn't surprising if you look at like these sort of quadruple, triple move routes that Hunter Renfrow is running, and especially in training camp when he can't hit the quarterback, so there's no
it's basically
true time limit.
Air,
it's
right?
like I'm just going to run back and forth until you eventually think I'm actually going that way, and then spin round. And Cooper Kupp copied it this week. That was fun.
Yeah, I mean it's basically Skelly in off season in that respect. Like doesn't really matter. Maybe Renfro got away from Ramsey after 12 seconds, but it's not going to happen in the game, is it?
I struggle to see the Cardinals having a great success against the Rams defense as well. It's a unit that likes to keep everything in front of them.
Yeah.
And what Murray's success doing so far this year is running around, buying a load of time, and then someone gets open down the field. And I don't think it's going to happen consistently as they would like it to, especially with Aaron Donald chasing Murray as well. That is a death waiting to happen.
That is a death waiting to happen. And I think you're completely right there, Slew. Like, so much of the time this season, we've basically seen a play break down, basically does that thing where he almost shapes like he's going to take off and run. And then the last minute stays behind the line of scrimmage, at which point the whole defense has sort of come up anticipating to make the tackle, and someone's got an open downfield. I don't think we're going to see that with this Rams defense. I think they play a lot more disciplined than that. And the way that they're set up, like you said, to try and keep everything in front and to play off of, you can basically make the short catch or you can make the short run, but as soon as you do, we're going to hit the life out of you. And when you get to the red zone, you're not going to get past, you're not going to get through it. So I think
we were worried last week that they'd been leaving too much room underneath, but they just suffocated that Bucs defense last week.
Yeah, they did. They made it super hard for Brady and the like to get those big plays and to gain momentum. And in that respect, they let their offense was able to get so far ahead and be able to score so quickly that the Bucs just couldn't reply in turn. And I kind of see this game following a similar suit, just the way that these secondaries match up as well. I mean, we've seen Matt Stafford play some fantastic football. Last week, he was phenomenal. And it's like, again,
I'm starting to feel bad. I'm feeling bad for Jared Goff now because every week it seems to be a new person or member of the team that's going, "Oh, we love having Matty Stafford here. He's amazing. We can do so much stuff now. We're so good." And Jared Goff, do you reckon he's really bummed out, or do you reckon he sometimes sticks on the Rams game when he gets home and is like,
"That was me."
I kind of get it.
I did that. Yeah, I mean, I see what you mean, but to a certain extent as well, like, Matty Stafford is now suddenly getting the respect and, plaudits that his play has deserved for the last 8 years. Like, I think everyone's been saying he's been stuck in Detroit on these bad teams where they've completely wasted. I mean, they completely wasted Calvin Johnson's talent, and they've also completely wasted Matty Stafford's talent. He is a fantastic quarterback. He's got tremendous accuracy, and he's got the strength and touch to put it all over the field. That's not Jared Goff. That's never going to be Jared Goff. So, I mean, I think in that respect, Goff's got, I'm not that guy. That doesn't mean I'm a terrible quarterback, but I'm just not this elite quarterback that we're seeing now. I mean, good luck to the Rams. They have to deal with some pretty mediocre offense for, if you hark back to the perpetual 8-8 days and then the Jared Goff years.
Yeah, I mean, there was that one year with Fisher, wasn't there? And then McVay came in, transformed that offense, and until the Patriots Super Bowl, like, no one seemed to have an answer for them.
Yeah.
And then
everyone copied the Patriots' way of defending it.
Yeah, and now you need an elite guy like Matt Stafford, because you can't just rely on Jared Goff to poke holes at a defense when the defense is built to stop that offense.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, with this game, so what are we thinking score-wise? Is this going to be a close one, or are we thinking it's going to be a little bit of a not blowout, but comfortable Rams win, maybe?
Yeah, I do, and to be honest, I think the Rams are going to be in control for much of this match. Not only is it in LA, but they're a better team as well. I think they'll cover that 4.5 points. To be honest, if you talk, I just don't see where the Cardinals have a distinct advantage.
Yeah, I was trying to think of this as well. Like, I was trying to think of what the Cardinals have to do to win this game, and it's, I mean, other than some Kyler Murray magic and the secondary suddenly coming together, I just don't see it being possible, if I'm honest.
And that's a little bit worrisome for the Cardinals as playoff contenders as well, that you're relying on this magic. Like, it's up to Cliff to be able to scheme something up, and they're going to have to beat the Rams in structure because you're not going to get too many chances to beat them out of structure. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can move the ball sort of consistently, slowly down the field, because these Rams defense they're not going to give up big chunks like 3 times a game. It's just not going to happen. So this is in Cliff's hands for the Cardinals to make it close. And to be honest, I don't like the Cardinals might have a good day on offense, but their defense isn't good enough to hang in a game like this.
Yeah, and that's been one of the disappointing things about the Cardinals. I remember from week one, obviously Stan Wilson, resident Cards fan at the drop back here, was
Every team's got one.
yeah, every team's got one. He was very excited about the Rams defense and the secondary in particular. Actually, after week one, he said that he was very impressed with them, and then the bottom sort of fell out, and they've been a bit shit since, to be honest. So, I mean, what has happened with that? That was surprising.
Sorry, it cut out a little bit there. What did he say?
I said, what's happened with this Cardinals secondary, which looked really impressive in week one, and then subsequently just became a little bit rubbish. To be honest,
I think they flattered. I think it was more flattering to see week one. I think it was more the Titans' poor execution. Like those players on the Rams secondary did play well, but they played well for them, and they're just not elite level talents on the back end other than Buda Baker. And unfortunately, in the Parts Happy League, you're going to get exposed unless you've got really good quarterbacks. And they may get there, but they're not there yet. And unfortunately, it's a weakness for them.
Yeah.
But they're a young team, and I'm not overly concerned.
No, I think they'll be okay. I just think
they've still got a long window.
Yeah.
It's just I don't think they're there now.
Yeah. No, completely agree. I also have the Rams taking this one. I think it will be fairly comfortable. I think maybe like a 31 to 18 or something like that, 19, something in that ballpark. Similar to what we saw last week against the Bucks from these Rams, to be honest.
Yeah. That holds up.
That holds up indeed. Right, well let's scoot on over to the next game. And speaking of the Bucks, let's talk a little bit about Tampa Bay coming back to New England. It's Tampa Bay Buccaneers against New England Patriots. Tom Brady comes home on Sunday night, 1:20 a.m. on Monday morning if you're in the UK. I mean, this game would be a lot more interesting if I had any sort of feeling that this would be a close thing, which I don't. Especially after the news this week that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have added Richard Sherman to the secondary.
Yeah, and that should be a boost because, I mean, this secondary needs players that are dropping like flies, especially in the cornerback position now, and there's a lot of pressure that Todd Bowles puts on his corners to be able to hang like one-on-one.
Yeah.
Fortunately for Richard Sherman, there isn't probably many teams that are easing in than against these Patriots wide receivers.
Yeah.
So I don't think I don't know if he's even going to play this week. He only just started training today or yesterday rather. And he did say he would feel more comfortable if he had a full week of training in him.
Which is fair enough because, he hasn't played in the NFL this season yet. So
no,
give him a break.
I mean, he was great in 2019. He fell off a little bit last year. And it'll be interesting to see what they ask him to do because they like I said, Bowles likes to play a lot of man coverage.
Yeah.
And that's never been Sherman's game. It's been a lot more. I mean, it's a Seattle scheme, isn't it? It's that
exactly
deep
deep zone,
and then being able to watch and break on the ball in front of him.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what he does. Like I said, probably harder games to be thrown in the deep end at than this one.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? And with what we've seen from the Patriots thus far, it's kind of been as we expected with that offense. They lack superstar talent on the outside to be able to, spread the ball around quickly and effectively and hit you with a deep game. So, I mean, in that respect, it would be quite a cushy sort of easing in for a new corner, to be honest. N'Keal Harry, obviously not what people thought he would be.
N'Keal Harry's still there. Did they get rid of him?
I thought he was still there.
They asked him to trade. He asked for a trade, didn't he?
He did, point? Yeah. That relationship is.
I mean, because Kendrick Bourne,
Nelson Aguilar,
and what's the slot? Is it Jacoby Myers still there?
I think it is Jacoby Myers, indeed. So I mean, they're not names that are going to strike fear into a secondary.
Bourne looked decent last week.
Yeah, true. I mean, they're okay.
None of them. The issue is none of them are number one receivers.
Yeah. The strength of that offense is the two tight ends, and I mean, if you construct an offense like that, it favors a short game. It favors a short, methodical, put over the middle or run it through the trenches type game plan, and that's what we've seen from the Patriots.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see because the Patriots' offensive line hasn't been what it was hyped up to be in the beginning of the season. I mean, it hasn't helped Trent Brown's out at right tackle. His replacement has not been good, but other than Onwenu, they've not been dominant as that Patriots line have sometimes been in the past. And the health from right guard over to left tackle isn't a question mark. So it might be a struggle running against this, well, especially against the Tampa Bay front that have looked great, except in the second half of the Rams game when they were sort of chasing it a bit.
Yeah, exactly. And I think with that one as well, like, yeah, you've got a rookie quarterback there with Mac Jones, and the protection hasn't been as good as the Patriots would have hoped with him. I think they really hoped, building from last season, that they've got a solid offensive line there. They can afford to put Mac Jones in and have him as the start of the season because he's going to be well protected. And it just hasn't really materialized as yet. I don't know why exactly that is. Could be the injury to Trent Brown. Could be, just people taking a slight step back. But I mean, this is going to be a tall order for Mac Jones and the Pats offense.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think if they've got any chance, they've basically got to be able to hang with one of the best scoring offenses in the league, right? Against a much better defense than their own.
Yeah, I mean, while we're sticking on the Pats offense, I mean, Mac Jones has got to show that he's willing to take a shot occasionally. And this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team will give him the opportunity to, because they're going to give him one-on-one matchups. And sometimes you just got to trust your guy to go get the ball. So I'll be interested. Like, this is a chance for the Patriots receivers to actually prove something this year. I mean, a big loss for them is James White now being ruled out for the season, who basically, as a security blanket, was the best part of their offense and has been for the last 2 or 3 seasons as well, to be fair.
Yeah. I mean,
pretty big blow.
James White's been the guy they go to on, so often on third downs and in tight situations. He's the guy that's gotten them out of it with his, his pass catching ability. He's jukey. He's been able to wriggle free and get them out of tough situations. And yeah, him not being there is a big blow. I do think it's interesting what you said about Mac Jones, and I do see a lot of the Tua early door struggles in Mac Jones, and that not wanting to take the deep shot and being almost too scared of causing a turnover rather than going out and scoring a touchdown. And I think that's just something that he's got to get over, and it's going to be a learning curve for him.
Yeah, but being safe isn't always the worst thing in the world, but it needs to be sort of, I think you just need to be a bit more cautiously aggressive. Like, to be overly aggressive, again, doesn't help your team, but you just need to know when those shots are available. And to be fair to him, like, I'm guessing he hasn't developed a whole lot of trust in his receivers, because like when you play at Alabama with Ruggs and Devonta Smith and Jerry Jeudy, who are going to win one-on-one, you don't know these guys are going to, unfortunately. So yeah, I mean, the other thing as well is that they haven't really got the tight ends going in the passing game, which has been more of a surprise. And you'd have thought that they would be the targets. I mean, they've been targeted, but they haven't really been able to move the ball consistently.
No, that's been a bit of a weird one. Obviously, they went out and signed Johnny Smith and Hunt Henry for big money this offseason, and we sort of thought that was going to signal even more of that sort of, short game, keep it on the ground, over the middle with the big body tight ends who are going to be able to win one-on-one against a safety or a linebacker, and will methodically work our way up the field. And yeah, like you said, they've gotten on the field plenty, but it hasn't amounted to the sort of volume that we were expecting. I mean, why do you think that is, Lou? Is it just the situation hasn't arisen yet, or a team's doing too good a job of covering them up?
I'm not really sure, to be perfectly honest. I think they're wanting to keep them in a bit more because, like you said, there's the worry with the offensive line, so they don't want to release them too down. I think they're using them a bit more in pass pro, especially on that right-hand side. I think they've just been quite run heavy as a team and the short passing game. But yeah, I'm not, honestly, I couldn't give you an answer.
Well, there you have it.
It's a bit weird.
Yeah, it is a bit strange. But I mean, yeah, maybe we see them start to try and unleash them a little bit more this week. As you said, we're likely to see more of those one-on-one matchups on the outside and in coverage in this Todd Bowles scheme, which means that maybe there is going to be some opportunities for Mac Jones if he's willing to make those 50-50 balls and try and give his receivers a chance to make a play.
When you were talking earlier, I think there is a slight difference in the sort of reluctance between Tua and Mac Jones, because Tua, he's reluctant to throw it downfield until his first read isn't there, and then he'll just throw it bloody wherever.
There, it's launching.
It just goes. Mac Jones, at least he gets to his check down or holds the ball and then gets sacked. So less interceptions, more sacks, less yardage. So depends what you want. Neither is particularly fun.
Yeah, if they could both sort it out, then they're
how is Jalen Hurts the best Alabama quarterback right now, and he's not looked good?
Yeah, that is weird. I don't love it. I'll be honest. There was a lot of hype about that QB room at Alabama, and so far it hasn't really shaken out as we thought. I mean,
Yeah.
still plenty of
Who's
time.
do you reckon the last? I mean, Matt Jones is probably going to be the last one standing as starting QB, right?
I don't know. He fits the mold. I feel like even if Matt Jones isn't a particularly good success with the Patriots, I think he fits the mold of the typical like journeyman QB. I don't think he's going to struggle to have a job in the NFL. I don't think he's going to be particularly good, if I'm honest, hand on heart. But I think he'll always be able to have a job in the NFL. I think with Tua and Hurts, it's a lot more up in the air as to what how far teams are willing to trust them and how low their floor is. Maybe it feels wrong saying this, but I think maybe Mac Jones is the one that lasts the longest.
Mad. Also, it's weird that they've got him under center so much. I mean, I know he can do it and it's better for their run game, but like his success at Alabama came with quick RPO reads or shotgun single reads, and they're not really utilizing any of that. I think that might be another reason why tight ends haven't got as involved as they could be. But
true.
It's strange that they haven't sort of catered the offense a little bit more to him.
And that's an interesting point as well, because I think there's a similar situation in Miami with Tua. Like, again, a QB that was prolific in college with RPOs and stuff like that. And at Miami, they haven't been able to run that stuff very effectively. Like, the protection's not been good enough. They haven't really.
But that's the thing about RPO. It should be a benefit for a team that doesn't have great protection.
Yeah, I think there's been a clear divide. I mean, I can only speak from the Dolphins' point of view. I think there's a clear divide between what the co-offensive coordinators, how they want to game plan and what they want the offense to look like, and how actually you get the best out of Tua and you get the best out of some of the weapons that you've got there. I think at the moment we're seeing a bit of a mismatch there, and maybe it's a similar situation with the Patriots, right? They're still getting used to Mac Jones and understanding how best to utilize his skills. So maybe we do see more RPO stuff.
Yeah, we hope so.
We hope so, exactly. I mean, but circling back to this game to finish it off. I mean, I'm going to go with, like I said at the start, quite a heavy Buccaneers win here, to be honest. And that's not just my Dolphins talking. I think it is genuinely going to be, the Patriots aren't there yet. Maybe in a few years' time they will be. But right now, I think Tampa's the obvious better team.
Yeah, I mean, the Patriots offense has actually been pretty good. Like, they've conceded a few points to the Saints, but most of those were pick sixes. Starting with short fields. So they haven't exactly been blown away. Unfortunately, it's similar when you look at some other teams around the league. They also haven't really played anyone yet. They played Miami, they played the New York Jets, who may be the worst team in football, and they played New Orleans in sort of their
New Orleans, where they had no coaches as well.
No, they had coaches back.
Was that?
It was the Panthers game. It was the Panthers game that they lost. That they had no coaches. Yeah. But I think this Buccaneers offense, especially with Antonio Brown, who should be back, is probably going to be too strong for them.
Yeah, that's an interesting one as well. Antonio Brown activated off the COVID list today, so will be eligible to play on Sunday. Could be seeing Antonio Brown homecoming as well. You're talking about Brady homecoming. We've got Gronk and Brown as well.
Not a homecoming.
Well, it's not a proper homecoming because the only thing Brown did was turn up to that game in Miami and absolutely torch us and then leave.
Do the Bucs play the Steelers this year? Because they both finished up in the division last year.
You know what? If they do, then that's a tasty matchup.
Let me have a quick look.
Have a little gander. While you do that, like I said, I think there's some interesting storylines in this one. There's a lot of homecoming or quote unquote homecoming. Obviously, Gronk and Brady coming back, which is it'll be interesting to see how the Foxborough crowd sort of react to them. I mean, they should treat them as heroes. To be honest, they did a lot. I think
they'll cheer him at the beginning of the game, and then they'll boo him throughout the game, and then they'll be sick by the end when they play some nice video for him or something at halftime, and he puts 40 on him.
Well, there you have it. I mean that would be interesting to see.
No, they don't play the Steelers. That's unfortunate.
Oh no, that is prime time box office telly if they'd done that, to be honest. But alas indeed. Anyway, I think this will be a very happy homecoming for Tom Brady, less so for Bill Belichick seeing Brady come back, because like I said, I think the Buccaneers by a fair margin here. I'm guessing you're with me on that one, Salou.
Yeah. I don't think the Patriots will be in the game that much. I don't know if it'll be by 7 points. I don't know. Patriots losing by 7 at home seems would be a surprise.
Yeah.
I wouldn't like to bet either way on that, but if I was, yeah, probably.
You don't think they'll cover the spread? Wow.
I don't know. Like that's by NFL standards, that's a pretty big spread. I mean, like most games, I think is like the average is like 3 or so points because of like garbage time and stuff like that. So I just have to go with the money line on the Buccaneers and go big on that one to cover it.
Nice. Well, there you have it. There you have it, boys. Cool. Right. Let's finish off our games of the week with the all LA affair. LA Raiders against LA Chargers, 3-0 Raiders taking on their division rivals here on Monday Night Football. 1:15 start Tuesday morning if you're in the UK, and definitely a game worth staying up for.
Why are all the primetime games except Thursday night, which we're refusing to cover until they have a good game?
True.
Why are they all? Is it Texans Jags or something like that?
It's Jags Bengals.
That's just
tonight. So if you want to stay up for that, then by all means, be our guest and enjoy, but we shall not be. Yeah, that's a good point. Why are all the good games on late this week? That's bullshit.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't mind the 9 o'clock games, to be fair.
True. But yeah, I mean, so Raiders, Chargers, two interdivision rivals, and both had pretty good starts to the season. Both coming off monumental wins, and maybe the Raiders not so much. They were kind of expected to beat the hapless Dolphins, but the Chargers with a huge win against the Chiefs. I think this is going to be a really close game, to be honest. And if you'd asked me at the start of the season, I would have absolutely said no way this would be a close game. So I'm an idiot.
No, I'm excited for this one. It should be fun. The Raiders are going to be wanting to get their running game going because it's been pretty bad, especially for their standard. I mean, guess what happens when you get rid of most of your O-line that were good previously? But hey-ho.
There is that.
But the Chargers have not been good against defending the run. And I think it's partially because they're quite small up front on their defensive line, and partially because they insist on continuing to play Jerry Tillery, who just gets moved about on the defensive line. I mean, it is a real issue. Like, I spoke about this, I can't remember if it was the pod or the live stream last week when we talked about how Joey Bosa is the only good, consistent player on that defensive line.
I think it was last week's live stream, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and that unfortunately continues to be the case. So, I mean, if you can run away from him, you may have success. What is interesting about this matchup, though, is for all the Chargers have been really good on the back end, and the Raiders are the best passing team at the moment in the NFL.
They are, which is again something. If you said at the start of the season, come week 4, it'd be Derek Carr and the Raiders leading the way in the passing statistics. Everyone would be like, "You're crazy," but they've been absolutely phenomenal through the air.
Yeah. What I'd like to see though is if the Chargers basically play the same system they did last week against the Chiefs, because like a lot of the time they usually play zone, but they didn't last week. They played man because they had Derwin James to match up on Travis Kelce, and then they basically blanketed Tyreek, depending on which side he was on. So, I mean, if you replace Tyreek and sort of downgrade him to Ruggs, and that's your speed guy, and then do they put Derwin James on Waller?
I would.
Because it is a similar matchup, sort of stylistically, of those two players.
That's a good point. Yeah, that Raiders offense does almost in quite a few ways sort of mirror the way the Chiefs line up in terms of where their star players are at. So, I mean, like you said, 100%. If I'm the Chargers, I'm sticking James on Waller. I'm sticking a blanket or a bracket over Ruggs, taking away the deep option. I'm going to keep everything in front of me and make it difficult for Derek Carr to beat me deep. And I think that's a way, especially with the way that, I mean, it will need the Chargers front seven to come up and play tougher against the run, as you said. But also, if you look at the other side with the Raiders, Josh Jacobs has really struggled to stay healthy. Behind him, they've got Kenyon Drake, who hasn't really massively got going yet. He's not really that type of back who can be a workhorse as well, in my opinion. He's more of a third down, situational guy. So in that respect, like, it is set up. If the Chargers can sort of get hold of things in the trenches, then they can make life really tough for this offense.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting because stylistically they're pretty similar as well, actually, because they've both got Andy Reid, John Gruden, both of those West Coast roots, but they're doing some they're not stuck in it like some West Coast coaches have been, mentioning no names, but they like do a lot of sort of the stuff you see in college, like the RPOs, moving stuff out, a lot of empty sets. So doing some creative stuff on the Raiders offense, which you don't expect from John Gruden, because you just imagine him as being like, well, it's John Gruden, we must be in 2002, but it's not.
No, he's evolved. He's
evolved
evolved and adapted, and he's become one of the best coaches in the NFL at making adjustments on a week-to-week basis, as we've seen. And that's one of the main draws for me for this game as well. Is both of these offenses are so explosive and can be so creative. I mean, you've got the ultra aggressive Chargers with the way that they called the back end of last week's game against the Chiefs, like going for a touchdown, which probably wasn't the sensible thing to do, but fuck it, why not?
I think it was a sensible thing to do. But what confuses me about the Chargers is they've got this ultra, like you said, aggressive mentality coming from Staley into going for it. Yet they're quite conservative in the actual play calling, and it gives them a lot of third and long situations. And given that the Raiders are the best pass rushing team somehow through the at the beginning of the season, despite being the lowest blitz rate in the league. They've got I think they've got the highest. They're third in the league in pressure, but dead last in blitz rate. So that's incredible.
So they basically get home with a front 3 or 4.
Yeah, front 4. But yeah, and then the issue we have on the Chargers is that you have Max Crosby, who's playing out of his mind right now. Like, people are saying he's going to be up against Rashawn Slater, but he's not. He's going to be up against Storm Norton, even, who, despite an incredible name, has played very badly in replacement of Brian Bulaga, which is disappointing. Because if you're going to come into the league with the name Storm Norton, why not
walk
be good?
Walk.
It's a waste of time. If not. It's a waste of everyone's bloody time.
Yeah, that's a tall ask for him on on Monday for sure. Yes, I mean, like, what are you thinking with this in terms of, is it going to be a close one? I'm guessing you're going to go. I mean, I'm gonna edge Raiders on this one, to be honest.
You're edging Raiders.
I'm going to edge Raiders. I think I've seen enough from the Raiders so far that I don't think this is just like a 2-game hot streak. They're going to come back down to earth. I genuinely think the way the Raiders are set up at the moment and the way that team, chemistry-wise, is able to adapt on a week-to-week basis puts them in a position to do some real damage to top teams. And Chargers are a top team, but I think the Raiders got enough here.
Yeah, I'm going with the Chargers.
Ooh.
I think this is the first real test they're given on offense. Yes, Baltimore played well and Lamar's amazing stuff, but all the receivers on Baltimore have been dropping stuff all season long.
Correct.
So this is the first really good passing attack they're going to face. And I'm just not sure the Raiders can hold up.
Yeah, that is going to be a big question mark.
I don't think their defense is quite good enough. I think their offense is really good, and I think we're going to get a high-scoring game. I think the Chargers probably... I mean, as long as they... Chargers should win, as long as they don't do stupid penalties, but that's a big if, it seems, for this Chargers team. Can we not have, what is it, illegal motion or illegal shift?
Motion. How many plays this season so far have we seen dumb flags on the Chargers for that sort of stuff? It's been crazy.
Yeah. I mean, the Chargers are playing there. They're playing this old Seattle cover 3, a bit of match in there. And then you get guys like Mike Williams who can win one-on-one on the outside. And Keenan Allen who will find the gaps in that coverage. He just will. He just will,
yeah, exactly. I mean, tell you what as well, Mike Williams, what start of the season he's had. I mean, he's been phenomenal. I feel like Mike Williams has kind of quietly been quite good for a while. And
he's never really put together like a streak of good games. There's always been injuries or quiet games.
Exactly. He's yo-yoed between having sort of big games and then sort of doing nothing for a few weeks. But this is the first time we're really seeing him be consistent for a number of weeks, and he's looked phenomenal.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that you always see in like round 12 or 13 of your fantasy draft. And it's like,
get him.
I just don't trust it. I just don't trust him. But
I did.
This year,
he got me 23 points this week.
Oh, did you take him this year?
I did take him this week, and I'm gonna bloody start him again, aren't I? Of course I am. So yeah, I mean, I suspect, as you said, the Raiders secondary has looked. It's not been bad so far, but as you said, not really tested. So maybe we could see, a bit of a day for Williams and Herbert. But it does also, as you alluded to, depends on how the Chargers, what the Chargers let Herbert do. I know you were quite disappointed, as we spoke earlier in the week, about how they've been play calling for Justin Herbert versus what he's able to do.
Yeah, well, you're asking him to do too much on third down. And that, like, he's talented enough to be doing it for the time being, but it's not a situation you want to be living in. You don't want to be putting more pressure than necessary on your quarterback, no matter how good they are, because why, if you can make it easier for them, why would you not?
Yeah, that's very true.
Like, instead of getting them in like 3rd and 8 or longer, which they seem to be at a ridiculous amount of time whenever you put them on. And of course, Justin Herbert bails them out, but there's going to be games where it's just not quite clicking, and that's when you can't complete those long 3rd downs.
Yeah, exactly. Completely agree. So, I mean, I think either way, it's going to be a close one. I'm going to edge Raiders here. I'm going to say maybe 23-20 or something along those lines. What do you think, Zoe?
I think Chargers take it by about a field goal. So, probably take the Chargers in as... No, you know what? I'll take the Raiders to cover the spread, Chargers to win.
Nice. There you have it, boys. There you have it, guys. Right. Well, that wraps up our 3 games this week. Some absolutely fantastic games, and we'll be sure to break those down and chat about them next week on the pod as well. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Let's round off today's show with a bit of fantasy chat as well. We haven't done this a huge amount, but
yeah, I'm surprised when you put this in the pre-pod brief. I was like, that was talk fantasy football. Is this what's going on here?
Basically, I won this week, and it hasn't happened in ages.
Oh, so what a flaunt that you know what you're talking about in fantasy football.
Joe in fantasy. And
is that the whole reason we're doing this? Because you beat Joe.
About fantasy. You know, let me have this. I'm okay. Host this week. I'll decide.
I decide. Right. Okay.
Right. So yeah, I also decided on the name of this segment, which we're going to call Sneaky Fantasy Football Tips. And we're going to be talking about running backs and, you know, what running backs to start this week. Who's got the best matchups to take advantage of? So me and Slew have got a few different matchups and names here. Do you want to go first, Louis, or should I kick?
You know what? It's your segment. I'm going to let you go first.
Oh, thank you very much, mate. Right, well, let's start off our running back segment with a person that's not technically a running back, but has been playing a lot of running back for the Atlanta Falcons so far this season. It's Gadget Man Do-It-All, Mr. Cordell Patterson, who will be playing for the Falcons this week against the Washington football team. This is a fantastic matchup for Cordell Patterson, who has looked phenomenal so far this season, by the way. Many people thought that he wouldn't be really in contention for many touches in the backfield with the Falcons this season. Maybe we'd see him in a few gadget looks, maybe even out the slot, that sort of thing. But he has really sort of made the Falcons backfield kind of his own, which has been a surprise. And he's matching up against Washington football team that is 31st against the run. Just gave up, a lot of rushing capital to the Bills last week, which was a huge surprise. Never really been a better time to come and play the Washington football team defense on this, to be honest.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, we spoke about this on the pod as well, how the Washington football team have looked surprisingly bad on defense, just sort of executing badly. And it's weird to see because we all had them pegged as one of potentially a unit that could take Washington into the playoffs. Like, we knew the Washington offense wasn't going to be electrifying, but we thought the defense would keep them in enough close games that they'd win 9 or 10 games, which should have been enough in the NFC East. That's not happening now because Dallas are actually a good team and surprisingly decent on defense as well.
Yeah, not as bad as we feared.
Yeah, so I would start Cordell Patterson. This experience, the Cordell Patterson experience, it seems like it's been waiting for this moment. Like, it's absolutely not going to last. But while it's going on, have a little bit of fun with it. Like, you may as well. Exactly. When are you ever going to get a chance to start Cordell Patterson with confidence? So yeah, exactly. absolutely go for him. And he's probably still available on waiver wise.
That's the thing as well. Like, because people are so unsure if how long this thing is going to last with Cordell Patterson, or if he's one going to end up injured, 2 just going to completely lose his form again, as he's liable to do, or 3, the Falcons actually try and use a running back in the backfield. But while it lasts, he's basically a shoo-in to have a fantastic game against the Washington football team. So I mean, yeah, absolutely pick him up and ride with it this week. Slewy, who's your first suggestion?
Mine is right. This is a guy that people have probably been losing patience with now, which is why you take this opportunity, you play, give him this chance, and if he's not good now, then you bin him off or trade for him now, because Clyde Edwards-Helaire is never going to have a lower value than he does right now, and he's about to play the Philadelphia Eagles, who will have a terrible defense. Dallas absolutely ruined them last week. It was horrible. I watched it until 4 a.m, thinking at some point this is going to get better, but it just never did. The Chiefs are going to want a get-right game, so they're going to absolutely blitz that Eagles team early on. They're going to score so many points in the first half. They're going to be able to run out the clock in the second half. Clyde Edward-Helaire. I've never seen the Eagles' defensive front at times just get blown off the ball so much as I did in that Dallas game.
Really?
Yeah. So if you've got Helaire or you sense the guy that has him in your league is sort of losing patience, absolutely go and try and take a swing at him. Like, this is the perfect opportunity because you're not going to get him after this week.
I really like that. That is definitely a little sneaky one as well that fits in with the segment title. Because I think I completely agree. People have sort of he's become a bit of an afterthought, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, people got very frustrated with he had that fumble against the Ravens that basically cost the Chiefs the game. He hasn't really ever picked up that form that we saw at the start of last season. We are sort of getting to the end of the rope here with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, so I think definitely he's poised for a bit of a big game against your Eagles, Slew. Sorry about that, mate.
That's fine. I'm living with it. My dream for this year is that we end up with 3 first top 5 picks with the Colts, Miami, and the Eagles picks.
That's what you're going to do. Just going to accumulate draft capital and go again.
Here we go. We roll.
Here we go. So I like that. Clyde Edwards-Helaire against Philadelphia. I'm going to circle back to one of mine now, and speaking of running backs who haven't really probably taken off yet, to be fair to David Montgomery, I feel like a lot of it is due to misuse. I think that he could offer so much more to Chicago if they just gave him the ball more and put him in better situations to win. But for whatever reason, Matt Nagy has thus far decided not to do that. I think that ends this week against Detroit. I think Nagy came under so much fire, and rightly so, for the way that he game planned against the Browns. He really threw Justin Fields under the bus with the way he called that game. I think they're going to go back to basics this week. He's already said about he's not, all 3 quarterbacks could start. I think that lends itself to I'm going to run the ball loads, and it's going to be probably quite an ugly game for the neutrals, but great game if you've got David Montgomery on your fantasy team, because he's going to get a ton of carries and probably a ton of yards against a Detroit Lions team that's 25th in the league against the rush. So those circumstances add up to Muchos fantasy points, quite frankly. Start the Montgomery, man.
Yeah.
Lock it in.
Lock it in, Chomper.
Lock it in, Chomper.
All right. I've got a couple that may be a little bit risky.
Oh, we like that.
Despite everything I just said about that Eagles defense, I think in the first half especially that they're going to overcorrect after only rushing Myles Garrett twice against the Cowboys. And one of those was for a 25-yard gain. So that Chiefs rushing defense is bad as well.
Mm-hmm.
That is not a good unit. So, I mean, what you're hoping for there is that on the first drive, he gets about 60 yards and a touchdown.
Just Miles Sanders.
Like they calm down that offense, stop putting so much pressure on Jalen Hurts, and let Miles Sanders run the rock, because he's actually a very good runner when you give him a chance to be.
Yeah, that is weird as well. Like, again, another running back who we've just seen do really good things when given opportunities and then seems to go long stretches without getting the ball.
Yeah, it's bizarre that especially against Dallas. Like, I don't know if they panicked and were like, "Oh, we can't win. Oh, the game's out. We're going to have to pass it all the time." But you don't have the personnel, unfortunately, to do that. I hate watching the Eagles right now, but yeah, Miles Sanders may be a choice. The other one, provided he's healthy, I like Elijah Mitchell. I think Trey Sermon got a touchdown at the end of the game to save his fantasy outlook, but he did not perform particularly well, about 3 yards a carry. And Kyle Shanahan has proven that Elijah Mitchell is his preferred guy. I think if he's healthy, Trey Sermon goes back to the bench, and there's not a whole lot of depth behind Mitchell, so he should get the lion's share of the carries against the Seahawks defense that has just absolutely gone to shit in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, not been good. Yeah, I mean, as we said on the pod this week, the Donny van der Beek's treatment of Trey Sermon means that Elijah Mitchell is poised to basically get all the carries, to be honest. Like, definitely start him.
Yeah. Also, if you hate yourself, start one of the Bills running backs against the Houston Texans, because they're a bad football team on defense as well. And they're going to and Josh Allen's back. They're going to have a big second half lead, but you just know whichever one you start, the other one is going to be the one that's given the ball.
Yeah. If you start Zach Moss, then Singletary's getting 20 carries. And if you do the other way around, it's going to switch. So, enjoy that. Maybe just start both and just accept the one that's going to have a terrible game. I've seen worse fantasy starts.
I feel so bad for your fantasy football team if you have both of those players.
We'll caveat that with if your fantasy football team has both Devin Singletary and Zach Moss, then just fold the team.
You probably pick them both up, depending on how big your league is.
I think
also, James Robinson is back. Trade for him if you can. People might not have realised yet if they're not watching every game every week, because they just hear, oh, the Jags are bad, but he's back now, and
He's back.
Trust the process.
Trust the process. Urban Meyer's starting to, so there you go. Give it to James Robinson, and pick him up. He was basically completely forgotten about for the first 2 weeks of the season, and now, it's almost like that. Urban Meyer's been like, oh shit, we've actually got a really good running back here. Who's been keeping him quiet.
I've got some to avoid as well. I didn't know if you wanted that, but
always.
Basically, every Tampa Bay Buccaneers running back, because it's just stupidly hard to predict, and the Patriots and the team they're playing are strong against the run, with the New England Patriots, and also all of the Baltimore Ravens and Texans running backs as well, because as above.
Well,
if your running back is in a committee, get rid of them, because it's a waste of time. It's a waste of your time, and it's too much bloody stress to deal with.
I was going to say it's not worth the perpetual stress and anger that it causes. Committee backs are bad for your health.
And he's not a running back, but please go try and pick up Rashad Bateman, who is back practicing this week. I don't know if he's going to play this week. He'll probably be back next week off IR. Given Marquise Brown's recent drops, and he's going to be the Ravens' top receiver this year. Like, just go pick him up. I promise you'll be worth it.
Boom. Right. Well, there you have it, listeners. You can never accuse us of not giving you enough fantasy tips now.
Is that an accusation we were getting?
No, I don't think so, because I don't think we were even attempting before, to be honest. But now that we're trying, you definitely can't.
We're coming for that space.
We are coming for that space. Well, right, that about wraps us up for this week, guys. Thank you so much to the guys at Britballing for letting us come on and chat NFL to you guys. If you did like some of the content, then please come and check out the dropback.com or .co.uk, where we have articles and lots of other stuff for you to check out. Also, give us a follow on social media at The Dropback, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. We have a podcast every week, usually drops on Tuesday, where we chat about more of this stuff, usually talk about the games from the weekend and preview some of the stuff and all the news around the NFL and Britball. So, Sammy, thanks for joining me, mate.
Cheers, Matt. Been good to be here.
Lovely stuff. And we will catch you next week. Take care, guys.